It's 7 o'clock in the morning, it's -4, it's foggy, it's frosty, and I'm driving 130 miles from Hertfordshire to Hampshire to run half a marathon in the New Forest. I must be bonkers. Chuffed to bits. Isn't it amazing? Buns of steel and liver transplant, sand. Yeehaw! And here we are. It warmed up a bit, but we're still 0 degrees. It is a beautiful day. So I'm just quickly making my way to registration.
There we go. Hiya.
Julian Berry Long. It's quite a big field today, and there's Canicross as well, so the Canicross people, that's those running with dogs, they had to start right at the back, and some of them are really quite fast, so we've been overtaken by loads of dogs already. Everybody's just kind of finding their way at the moment. There's quite a lot of ice on the path, and because there's 3 different distances, you never know who you're running with, so are they faster or slower than you? Do you know what, it doesn't matter, run to your own pace. So I'm doing the longer run, which is 22k. I haven't trained as hard as I should have done, so I'm going to take today as a training run and just enjoy this beautiful part of Hampshire. So here we are in the New Forest. It's called the New Forest, but of course it's not new. It was once. That was about 1080 when William the Conqueror decided he wanted a forest around here so he could pursue his passion for hunting and also have a ready supply of food when him and his followers came going around the country. So lots of deer and other animals to hunt, and that's how the New Forest was created. So William founded it for hunting, and his descendants and the next few kings did the same. But by the time we get to the 1700s, the British Empire is desperate for timber for the Royal Navy to build and repair its warships and merchant vessels. So they actually started cultivating the trees so they had plenty of timber. And of course all the natural deer and other animals grazing away at the trees caused a problem. So they closed off certain areas to protect the saplings. And if you look at a map, lots of areas here called enclosures, and that's what it was for, fenced off areas, especially to let the trees, the young trees, grow. Probably about 1 degree, something like that, maybe 2, but with the sunshine and no wind and running, absolutely warm enough at the moment. There we go, that's 10k done. So just 12k to go because we're on 22k. All this run takes place in a sort of a triangle between Lyndhurst, Brockenhurst and Bewley, and that whole parish is called Denny Lodge. I don't know, must be over 100 square miles. But just up here, I don't know if we're going to get to see it, but there is the actual Denny Lodge that the parish was named after. And there we are, the aforementioned Denny Lodge. Back in the day it was the head groomskeeper's cottage, and after that it was the head forester's cottage, I believe. One of my friends asked me how I remember all this rubbish that I talk about on these running commentaries, and I had to admit that I have a crib sheet that I've written. Well, I usually have a crib sheet, because today I've left it behind in the car, too busy flapping about what clothes to wear. So now we'll see whether I really can remember all this nonsense, even though I've not actually learnt it. I only wrote it last night, but we'll see how much goes in. We've done all right so far, aren't we? And then we emerge from the forest into this. A huge expanse is pony down there. A huge expanse of what they call heathland. I mentioned that the forest was actually created by William the Conqueror, but there have been people living here and farming here for thousands of years. Back in the Bronze Age, which was 2000 BC, there were people living here, and you can find Bronze Age barrows on this area. And Iron Age forts as well, which is about the, I don't know, 1000 BC, turn of the century, something like that, turn of the millennium. But it was the Bronze Age people, they started to wanted to try and farm this area, so they cut down whatever trees were here and they grew crops on this land, but they didn't understand the concept of fertiliser or putting nutrition back in the soil, and after generations of cropping the ground, it just became completely spent and very acidic. So it's only these acid tolerant plants like bracken and heather that you can see here, like you might get on Dartmoor, that are able to grow. So this heathland was created by Bronze Age people probably 3,000 years ago. I think this particular boggy marshland is called Shatterford Bottom. 9 miles done. I think we're getting to the end of our heathland. It looks like we're going back into the forest again. Should be about another 4 to go. Maybe 5. I have to try not to think about it. To enjoy the scenery of this wonderful national park. I'm definitely getting tired now. 10.5 miles. I knew I wasn't necessarily in the finest of shape, but I wanted to see where I'm at. Bit of a benchmark, so I've run all the hills. I haven't stopped running at all yet, apart from gates and things. Well, that last section was really quite technical. Quite a lot of mud and ice and things to step over, so it was harder work than I thought. Just had a lovely chat with a fellow called Dan. We talked about trail running and how much more inclusive it is compared to, say, road running, which is proven by the chat we just had. There's a bit of land up here, I can't remember exactly where it is, that's called the Bishop of Winchester's Purlieu. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'll have a look when I dig my notes out. And I didn't know what a purlieu was, so I looked it up. And it's just a word that defines the edge of a piece of land, or more specifically the boundaries of a forest. And so what's it got to do with the Bishop of Winchester? I thought, well, the story goes that the Bishop of Winchester and King John of Robin Hood fame were out riding in this area, and the bishop said he'd quite like to have some land, and King John didn't really want to give him any, so he said, because the bishop was quite fat, I'll give you all the land you can crawl round. And the bishop, not to be outdone, created some mechanical contraption that would support his weight, and actually found he crawled around an awful lot more land than King John had bargained for. So the story behind the Bishop of Winchester's Purlieu. So here we are, just heading back into Round Hill campsite, which is where the finish is at, just outside the town of Brockenhurst. And the only fact I can remember about Brockenhurst, its claim to fame, is that it's the only village in the New Forest with a church that was actually mentioned in the Doomsday Survey. And I can't remember exactly how many cottages or anything it had. I think it was 6 cottages, 4 slaves and 2.5 ploughs. How'd you get 2.5 ploughs? Here's the finish. Oh! Thank you. Thanks everybody. Oh wow, thank you. I need that. There we go. Half marathon done. 2 hours 20 minutes. It's about where I expected to be. 2 hours 15 was what I was expecting. But yes, I was quite caught out by that rough stuff at mile 10. What's next for me? Well, I've got my first ever coached session at an athletics track on Wednesday. Then I've got a 10k in Harrow on the Hill in northwest London, which is the area where I grew up. So that's going to be a bit of a trip down memory lane. And yeah, I'll see you there.